Hey, what's up, everybody? We're live. Welcome to a brand new edition of On to the Next One. We are coming out of just the weirdest, wackiest ending to the calendar year for the UFC with UFC 282. I don't even know what to say, AK, because, and let me just introduce you real quick. I'm Mike Heck. That is my best friend, Alexander K. Lee. And I'd love to just continue with the pleasantries and just give you this rousing introduction. But there's just such a strange taste in my mouth coming out of UFC 282, AK, because this card started off frantically. 10 fights, 10 finishes. We had some great storylines. We're building towards something really cool. And then we handed it over to the judges for the two most important fights on the card. And boy, did they fumble the bag, as the kids like to say, AK. How are we feeling on this Sunday from a match following just a weird, wacky, and strange ending and conclusion to UFC 282?
Yeah, weird is the word we kept using going into the event without the way it kept getting altered. Like it had a lot of modifications outside of the main event. Of course, we lost Yuri and the beautiful, a weird fight in itself already, considering how the first fight went. The beautiful Yuri Glover rematch. Mike, we were this close to possibly having the number 1 and number 2 spots in the Fight of the Year awards both go to the same two fighters, but we lost that opportunity. How amazing would that have been? We lost Robbie Lawler from the card. Bo Nickel was supposed to make his debut. What a nice way that would have been for the UFC to end this calendar year. What else did we lose? Oh, Ovince St. Preux had 3 different opponents and then just ended up not getting to fight in the card at all. It was a weird one. It was a weird one going in, my best friend. I'll tell you. And then the night itself was weird. Even though people were having a good time, there was finishes. You could see in the air that chaos was lingering. Maybe not like full out chaos, but it was there. Our very first fight, an illegal knee, which probably, sorry, Cameron Simon, probably should have ended the fight in a disqualification. I don't think that Stephen Kozlow was the same after taking that knee. The commentary was, I don't even want to make fun of the commentary because there was some swings in these fights that like normally we say, oh, the commentary was so off, like Joe Rogan, Daniel Cormier, what are they talking about? And this was probably right up there with like classic Rogan, where he's like, oh, this person's not going to submit, and then they submit, or this person's about to get out of a this person's in trouble, and then they completely get out of a hold, or this guy's winning a fight and then they lose like 2 minutes after. But that's just kind of the night it was. That's commentating on live action. I can't even blame Rogan for that. Chris Curtis didn't look like he was doing super great against Joaquin Buckley. Just cracks him. Edmund Shabazian got a win for the first time in a few years. It was just a lot of weird stuff. There's a lot of weird stuff. And I haven't even gotten to the main card yet. We'll talk more about the main card soon. But it was, I think the gymnastics score I came up with before, the 8.5, 8.6 range, was actually perfect. Because I think it was a good card and a memorable card, but not like an all-time. I saw people saying like card of the year just because there's so many finishes. And I want to remind people, like, finishes, while exciting, do not necessarily mean it was a card of great fights, because it was exciting, but it wasn't like, I don't think it was the best card of the year, but it was super fun. I'm not crapping on this card at all. Super fun, probably more fun than it had any business being. And as you said, unfortunately did not nail the landing.
I would agree. I think the Wi-Fi connection's a little bit better here. I am in the hotel lobby, so it's probably a little bit crazy. I just got no choice. This is where we have to do this show, and we appreciate you joining us. I'm a little tired, perhaps a little grumpy following last night and the way everything concluded, but we are here with all of you to do some matchmaking. So basically what we're going to do as far as you guys in the comments section and all of that is we'll just throw out sort of like your general thoughts on things. If you have matchmaking suggestions for specific fights that we're going to discuss, chuck them out there. I'll throw them up on the screen. And then in the last 5 to 10 minutes, we'll just do like a rapid fire, pull up your matchmaking suggestions, throw them on the screen. We'll react to them in real time. And that's how we'll do the show. So let's get into this thing, AK. Let's start with the main event, because people kept asking me in the build to this new main event between Jan Blachowicz and Magomed Ankalaev, why do you preface everything by saying, at the end of the night, we are expected to have a new light heavyweight champion? Well, this is why, because the chaos clause has been invoked for the UFC all year long. And in the end, Magomed Ankalaev, Jan Blachowicz battled it out for 25 minutes. And we still don't have a champion of the world after Yuri Prochazka vacates. So were you shocked with the draw? Do you think the draw is like a valid scorecard? And How do we matchmake for these guys after this?
First off, I meant to shout out my Croatian brothers at the top of the show. Croatia in the semifinals of the World Cup. I actually have no particular loyalties to any team, but I have various gear from around the world for whatever reason. So Croatia is one of them. Again, you may see me. I never get to wear this thing. You may see me in a Morocco shirt sometime, depending how that semifinal turns out. So shout outs to Croatia and soon to be former Celtic FC back. Joseph Juranovic. Go get paid, son. Go get paid. He's done his work for Celtic FC. The main event score completely valid. I think round one. I think it's because by the end, Ankalaev was so dominant, so clearly winning the fight. There was a lot of people kind of raising their eyebrows, like, "Whoa, how could that be a draw?" But round one was a close one. I know some people scored for Ankalaev in real time. All three judges gave it to Blachowicz. They also all gave round two to Blachowicz, and I think it wasn't until round three that one of the judges gave Ankalaev a card. So heading into the championship rounds, it was 30-27, 30-27, 29-28 for Blachowicz. If this had been a 3-round fight as originally scheduled, Blachowicz would have won. Ankalaev probably would have fought differently. I mean, he did say after, like, and we saw his coaches kind of saying, like, "What are you doing? Just, go to your strength." And they probably would have said that a lot sooner in a 3-round fight. So when I say Blachowicz would have won a 3-round fight, I would have played out differently. It's, maybe he would have won, but I don't think Ankalaev would have fought the same way. Would have been a little more urgency in round two. But the score is completely valid. 10-8. I mean, I think you got to give a 10-8 in the fifth. I don't know if that would have made a difference, Mike. What was the 47-47?
Jan would have won if they didn't score. If that judge who scored a draw didn't score the fifth round at 10-8, Jan Blachowicz wins.
Okay,
by split decision.
I'm just sorry. If Mike Bell scores a 10-8, it's still a draw. I think it's then 40. Yes, then it's just 47-47, 47-40. It'll be a majority draw. It would have gone from a split draw to majority draw. Ankalaev would have had the only winning scorecard, but we still would have had 47-47 from Sal D'Amato and 47-47 from Mike Bell. So even if all three judges give a 10-8, which Mike Bell didn't, Mike Bell did 10-9 for Jan, still a draw. Unfortunately, it really was about the earlier rounds. Ankalaev really needed to win one of those earlier rounds to seal the deal. So I'm not sure if he'll feel differently after he takes a look at the scorecards. I doubt it. He probably thinks he won like 4 of the 5 rounds. Definitely, again, won the last 2, dominated the last round. I mean, based on the way fights are scored, it was a draw. Pride rules, clear win for Ankalaev. I think coming out of this, a lot of us feel like Ankalaev is the better fighter. That's not how judging works, unfortunately. So I have no problem with that, with the math that was done on Saturday.
I get it. Like, if you want to give a 10-8 in the fifth, that's fine. But I didn't even give DDP a 10-8 in the first round against Darren Till, because Till had those moments at the end and got some offense going and made it happen. And even one of the judges didn't even give that a 10-8 round for Dricus Du Plessis. And that was much more of a compelling argument for a 10-8 round. There are people saying that could have been a 10-7 round for DDP. And Ankalaev just took him down and held him there and landed 13 strikes. That's basically what the round was. He just held him there and landed 12 or 13 strikes. So I didn't score it a 10-8. I still thought the swing round was the third for me, because I thought Jan clearly won the first 2. 4 and 5 were definitely Ankalaev rounds. And then the third round was kind of the swing round, because watching it live, I scored it for Ankalaev. I thought Jan had moments. I thought the leg kicks were great, but I think Ankalaev was starting to turn the tide a little bit. He was landing with some vigor. He was pushing forward a little bit more, getting a little more aggressive. So I did score that round for Ankalaev, but I got to go back and watch it, because, like I said, 2 of those judges, was it all 3 judges who gave Blachowicz the first 3 rounds, or just 2 of them?
Just 2 of them. Okay. Derek Cleary went 10-9, Ankalaev in the third round. All
right, so Ankalaev, Jan Blachowicz. A lot of people were like, well, they're just going to run this one back for the title and just do this again, and one of these guys will be champion. Dana White was like, nope, hold my beer, bro.
Yep.
It's like he was watching the UFC 282 watch party, because New York Rick and I are discussing what they should do, and he's like, well, Glover should just fight in Brazil, but just give him somebody, because you obviously can't do Jan and you can't do Magomed because he's all banged up from the leg kicks. And I'm like, well, you could just pull Jamal Hill from the March 11th fight and do that. Like, that would make sense. And 30 minutes later, Dana White sits down at the press conference and he does exactly that. Jamal Hill is fighting Glover Teixeira to crown a new champion January 21st in Rio. Stunned by this. I didn't think they would actually do this. I guess stunned is probably not the word, but I'm surprised that they actually just went to that route right away, especially for a guy in a company who doesn't matchmake after the cards on Saturday. Dana White was quick to pull the trigger on the matchmaking here. So that's that fight. That's where we're going with the title. But what do we do with these two guys? Do we just run this one back as like a 3-round fight or like a fight night main event? Or do we send these guys on different roads here following an interesting main event, but all in all, not all that compelling in the end?
And by the way, I mean, there's a reason that Dana White doesn't matchmake right after cards. It's because, one, we've kind of criticized him as a promoter, but for practical reasons, it's not like they can really get people to sign contracts. I mean, I assume it's obviously a pretty strong verbal agreement. I think Jamal Hill commented on it after already. He's all in. You know, he wants it. Of course, it's a title fight. Why would he say no? Did we get a comment from Glover yet?
I think I don't know. I have to go back and look at Aaron Bronsetter's Twitter.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, and I don't see why Glover wouldn't be into it either. But it is funny to literally right after that just say that these two. It's not like a case where like, you know, two fighters on the same card want to fight, and it's like, you know, two fighters in the same division on the same card, clearly headed to a title fight. Like, then I'd understand if Dana's like, oh yeah, this guy defended his belt, this guy's the clear number one contender, we're definitely going to book them next, which is something even then he doesn't do that. So for two guys who aren't even on the card, I mean, one of them was supposed to be, but for two guys who weren't on the card to just suddenly be booked into a title fight is pretty wild. So I don't know when contracts are going to be sent out. Probably this week, I would hope, given how quickly Dana came up with this. Because I can't imagine it's something that was in the works because Jamal Hill had a fight with Anthony Smith, and I can't imagine it was in the works until Dana like very openly just said like, I hated that main event and I need to fix this now. I need to put a Band-Aid on this light heavyweight division somehow. I don't know if the Teixeira Hill fight does it, but Mike, I'm all for running back Ankalaev and Blachowicz, but not for the title. Sorry guys, that ship has sailed for now. As you said, as Dana White said, it's Teixeira and Hill getting it, but run it back. 5-round fight night main events. Hopefully not in the Apex if they're hitting the road. This is the kind of fight that I know didn't thrill people, but they deserve to have a crowd. They're big name fighters. Going from a pay-per-view main event to throwing the same fight into the Apex would just be weird and cruel. Though again, there's that weird word again. Maybe that happening would kind of put a real bow on this whole pre-UFC 282 and everything that's happened after this whole timeline that we're in right now regarding this pay-per-view. So I'm fine with them running it back, but it's got to be 5 rounds again. I think you have to recreate the circumstance as much as you can, which to me means it wouldn't be on a pay-per-view because I don't want a title. I don't want a title on the line. It's got to be a fight night somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only other option, I feel like Ankalaev lost the most here, honestly. I feel like Jan Blachowicz could slide into that Anthony Smith fight. Like if he's ready to come back in March, you could do that, and that would make sense. And I think the fans would react a little bit better to that. But what do you do with Magomed Ankalaev? I have no idea. But I think they will probably end up running this one back. But I think if the UFC had their druthers, they're going to try to convince Jan to fight Anthony Smith because it's a good main event. It's solid. Do they? And that's an on the road card, isn't it? Didn't they announce the March lineup? I think every single card is out of the Apex, right?
We've got 2 pay-per-views. We've got March is going to be a 2 pay-per-view night because and a cool one because you've got one that's domestic in Las Vegas and then you've got one a couple of weeks later in London. March 11th is in Vegas but not at the Apex.
That's right. That's
Have
right.
you heard about what is this?
Yes,
The theater at Virgin Hotels. What is
it's like a 4,000 seat arena.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
Which I like. I like this idea. I like the smaller crowd sort of events. I dig that. As long as it's not in the freaking Apex, man. I'm good with that.
March 25th, San Antonio. There you go.
San Antonio, Texas.
Let's do it. There's your fight night headliner. If both guys are healthy, if both guys want to run it back ASAP, again, on a card that's not at the Apex, San Antonio. I'll call my shot there. March 25th.
Maybe. I'm hearing that the UFC might be working on something a little bit different for that March 25th card. So stay tuned for that. I don't know if that's actually going to happen at this point. I mean, it's hard to predict what's going to happen in a week. Never mind what's going to happen 3+ months from now, but we'll see. But I'm hearing that the UFC is trying to do something a little bit different for that March 25th card. So I can't tell you what it is because it ain't done yet.
By the way, I still see people in the comments complaining about the draw score, and they're like, "Oh, round 5 should have been a 10-8." And I just want to remind people, if it had been scored a 10-8, it still would have been a draw. It just would have been a majority draw instead of a split draw. Let me double check that, but I'm pretty sure because
but two of the judges did score round 5 10-8.
As 2 of them did, yeah. I think if all 3 scored, it wouldn't have made a difference. Like I said, it would have just been no cards for Jan, but 2 cards would have been a draw. And Mike, exactly. if they had all gone your way and said no 10-8s at all, if it was all just 10-9s, then Jan would have won. Jan would have won on 2 of the 3 cards if the 10-8s had not been awarded. So yeah, really just a screwy fight.
Yeah, I mean, if you scored round 5 at 10-8, like I ain't mad at you. I just feel like there are better examples of a 10-8 than that. Like you could just lay on top of a guy and hold him down there and land 5 shots against somebody who lands 0. And you can call it a 10-8, like I guess, because you landed more and the other guy landed nothing. But I don't know. I thought Jan won the first round. I thought the leg kicks were big. I thought Jan looked real good early. I thought Jan won the second round. Third round, I thought Ankalaev won that one and then 1, 3, 4, and 5. So I didn't think we were even going to talk a 10-8. I didn't think that we're going to have any sort of a splitty city thing. Although after the Paddy the Baddy decision, nothing was going to shock me. I even said, like, they're going to score 50-45 for Jan Blachowicz. How about that? But that's where we're at right now. So let's move on. I don't think anybody wants to talk about this fight anymore. We want to discuss the matchmaking for somebody else. The aforementioned Paddy the Baddy Pimblett.
Oh, him.
Who gets a highly debated, strongly controversial, unanimous decision win over Jared Gordon in the co-main event. I mean, holy cow, dude. I can't believe this. I couldn't believe it. I went back and watched it again this morning. Mm-hmm. My mind does not change. I scored 1 and 2 for Gordon, round 3 for Paddy. If you want to score a third round for Jared Gordon, I ain't going to be mad at you. I just felt like Jared was more positional. It was just him fighting sort of not to lose. I do 100% agree with Dana White and Paddy, too. I was kind of stunned by Jared's game plan, especially now going back and seeing like how compromised Paddy's ankle was. And it was pretty clear how compromised his ankle was, which I may not have really picked out in real time because we had the watch party going on and so much was happening. But Paddy gets the win. Paddy and maybe one media member on the planet are like the only ones who thought Paddy won that fight, which is crazy. But at the end, as Paddy Pimblett said yesterday, you could feel how you want about it, but there's a green mark next to my name on this fight. It's going down in the history books as a victory. And now where do we go from here, AK? Because in my opinion, this was the best thing that could have happened to Paddy Pimblett because he didn't lose. He still kind of gets to play this off in an emotional way where people are going to react to him even more so than they did heading in. And what's even better is the way most people thought Paddy was going to win this fight. What would have been next was a top 15 guy who's probably going to absolutely melt him. And now he doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to fight a top 15 guy now. He can just fight anybody because we learned what we needed to know about Paddy and he didn't lose. So all in all, this isn't a horrible thing for Paddy Pimblett. It stinks for Jared Gordon, no doubt about it. But man, where do we go with the Baddy now? Because we're going to be talking about this one for a while.
There's a few ways you could go. First of all, I put up a poll before the show even started. Who was the biggest winner of UFC 282, Mike? I got 4 options. I mean, there's a bunch of ways you could have gone with this. I had to leave off who else? I had to leave off Edmund Shabazi, who I think would have been a nice guy to include. I had to leave off. Jairzinho. Really, Edmund is the other guy I would have liked to include. But I went with Paddy Pimblett, Dricus Du Plessis, Ilia Topuria, and Rosas Jr. And right now, Ilia Topuria leading with 66%. Paddy Pimblett at the bottom, 8%, probably because a lot of people are wondering why is he even in the poll. He did not win that fight. Mike, I've also reviewed the fight. We were doing the watch party. If anyone wants to see our live reaction, you can check out the replay of the watch party on MMA Fighting's YouTube. Mike, I might have been influenced a lot by your reactions. I'll be honest. I recall because Jared Gordon did great in round 1. I thought round 2 was close, and you yourself scored round 3 for Paddy Pimblett.
I did,
and I won't argue with that. I think this is so people. There will be a formal robbery review coming on by Monday morning. I'm still in the process of kind of working things out in my head. I've watched the fight. Like I said, I've rewatched the fight. Might have to watch it again, especially certain segments of it. But I will say, my first reaction was I tweeted right after, like, that was not a good decision. I just said it firmly. I'm a little bit shakier on it now, having seen the fight again. Again, I think round 1, what bothers me, round 1, I think is a clear Gordon round. That's the one thing that's sticking out to me. I don't know how you score round 1 for Pimblett. He just didn't land anything that, like the striking numbers, whatever. Again, stats, as we always say, are not a great way of judging a fight. And this is a perfect example. The striking numbers, I think Paddy actually had one more significant strike, but I don't see how anyone can watch that first round and say that headshots that he was landing were more significant than Jared Gordon's. Like, he had some good shots, but Jared Gordon was landing this left hand over and over again. He was really like landing clean, and Paddy just has an amazing chin. 2 of the judges gave round 1 to Pimblett. I really strongly disagree with that. All 3 gave round 2 to Pimblett, which again is not like horrible, because I thought round 2 was close. But I could see a lot of people scoring for Gordon too. I'd see a lot of 30-27 comments on the YouTube, so a lot of that on social media, of course. And again, I don't think 30-27 Gordon's a bad score either. So and I did like round 3 for Pimblett as well. I think I really did not like Gordon's strategy there. Just the wall install. It's in today's the way judging is understood now, that doesn't work. It can if you really, really make sure the other guy does nothing. But if you wall install for like 4 minutes and the other minute of the fight actually has action, actually has some back and forth things going on, which it did at the end. Let's not forget, Paddy actually ended up in a superior position. That wall install does nothing. You don't get points for that wall install unless you absolutely that's the other person absolutely did 0. And that wasn't the case in round 3. I would tell people, watch it again. There was stuff to score in there. There was very, very little striking, and there was some effective grappling to score, and you could call it even, or you could say Paddy even had the advantage because he took the back at the end. So all of that is to say that robbery review pending, not as definitive as I thought at first. But again, I don't want people to think that I'm leaning necessarily going to say it's not a robbery. I have to judge some other factors. People are definitely calling this one of the robberies of the year. I'm not ready to go that far. Could be a robbery. Matchmaking, Mike. I'll just say Dan Hooker.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I'm okay. Like maybe because Dan Hooker talked about him a little bit this week. Maybe because Dan Hooker, I know he's coming off a win, but I still feel like he's not like this. He's a great fighter. I think Dan Hooker's a great fighter, but I don't think he's like this elite world beater that Paddy doesn't stand a chance against. I think Dan Hooker should be favored, though it wouldn't surprise me if, like with the Jared Gordon fight, Paddy was favored and then actually got more favored as the fight came closer. I could see it like money comes. There's just so many people who like Paddy, so the odds wouldn't end up being that bad by the end. Even if Hooker was favored, it would be like probably minus 150 at most by the time fight night rolled around. I like Paddy's grappling. I think Paddy's grappling gives him some problems, and like I said, he's tough. He can take a hit. And listen, it might be fun for some people to see Dan Hooker just whack him around for 3 rounds. So even if you're not a fan of Paddy, there you go. There's your little treat. So I'm into it. He's not ranked in our rankings. He is top 15 in the UFC's rankings, I believe. And I think it's a winnable fight and a good name for Paddy. And if you're Dan Hooker, I mean, look, if you think he's been saying I can handle this guy easily, well, I'd love to see him prove it.
I'm sure a lot of people watching this right now who are reacting the way that I see them reacting would love to see that fight. They would love to see that fight because I think Dan Hooker runs through Paddy Pimblett with relative ease, if we're being honest. But like I said earlier, I actually think this is a pretty good thing for Paddy because one of the fights that we've been kind of building towards was almost off the table in a lot of ways, but I actually think it works out now. No matter what happens, January 21st at UFC 283, in the fight with Ismail Bonfim, we do Paddy Pimblett, Terrence McKinney. That's the one. Now we can do it now. We can do it. It's time. Yeah. Because if Paddy went out there and just smushed Jared Gordon and subbed him out of there like a lot of people thought he would, he's fighting like Jalen Turner or Grant Dawson. He's fighting one of those guys, and he's just going to get crushed. So this way, you could do Paddy Pimblett versus Terrence McKinney as like a fight night main event, and it would work, and it would sell. And you can make a case for either guy winning that fight. You can make a case for either guy winning. I think McKinney would win. I would pick him right now. But if this fight gets out of the first round and gets like deep into the second and Paddy starts to get cooking, Paddy could definitely win. But I like that matchup. So, I mean, Tristan, after watching what Jared Gordon did to him on the feet last night, you don't think Dan Hooker would do like 10 times worse? I don't understand.
But I don't think Jared dominated him though. That's the thing. He did in the first round. Clearly.
Dan Hooker's a much better striker.
That's fair. But I don't think Jared Gordon like dominated him though. And I think Jared Gordon's a better grappler than Dan Hooker is. I think he makes a little bit. A little better. Yeah.
Jared Gordon's also kind of a featherweight, if we're being honest.
He is. Oh, Paddy was definitely bigger. Yeah, Paddy was
way bigger. Yeah, like 2 weight classes bigger.
Yes,
honestly, yeah. And Dan Hooker doesn't have to really deal with that. So it's a horrible stylistic matchup. And Dan Hooker ain't slowing down. He's tough. I don't know
if it is because again, I think Paddy can take him down. I think Paddy can take. He's not like an amazing wrestler. Like that's one of his problems. Is like he's a good grappler. He's one of those guys. Good grappler when he gets to the ground. Can put in work, but not an amazing wrestler. He's not like a D1 takedown guy. That's why one of Paddy's huge weaknesses. If he had that, then we'd be talking about him as a legitimate contender. He doesn't quite have that. He kind of just like punch me in the face a bunch of times. I'm going to get inside. I'm going to trip you. I'm going to take you down. I'm going to make it ugly. And against Dan Hooker, I think that could work against Dan Hooker. But that's why I'm intrigued. Excuse me. I'd want to see it. I'm intrigued. I think. Sorry, just grab some water. I think. I agree. It's not an ideal stylistic matchup, but I don't think it's an ideal stylistic matchup for either guy. So I'd be into it.
I just don't think it makes any sense when we have. Listen, AK, I love you, and if they make the fight, I'm going to watch it, and it's going to be cool, and they'll build it up, and it'll feel important by the time it happens. But to me, there's other guys in the top 15 that deserve a Dan Hooker fight much more than Paddy Pimblett does, and it would do more for those guys than Paddy Pimblett. Listen, because if Paddy wins, what's he going to do then?
Listen, I've been predicting Paddy W's ever since he came to the UFC. I have not been wrong yet. Let's be real here. I've been predicting Paddy W. I have not. He's 4-0. He's 4-0. I don't know what people want to see. Is he that good? I don't know. By the way, I just pinned a comment. Paddy versus El Kukui. There's still time. There's still time.
No.
It's doable. Oh, I see another Paddy versus Tony.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Sorry,
Cody Fletcher, I see you. Cody Fletcher, I see you.
Listen, people saying it's like Paddy hate. This matchmaking is not Paddy hate. This is Paddy smart. This is Paddy, like, this is what you do with him. You book him wins now. Paddy's not fighting for a world title ever. It's not happening because he's going to have to be like a top 10, like a legit top 10 guy in this division. And he ain't doing it. But he could have a very successful career fighting tough dudes and just not fighting for belts. Kevin Holland never has to fight for a title again. Derek Lewis never has to fight for a title. There are plenty of fighters in the UFC who can make a fantastic living without going on title runs. And Paddy Pimblett just happens to be another one. So however you feel about it, it's all good. Like, this was a great night for Paddy Pimblett because look at the reaction to all of this.
Yep.
The reaction to all of this is great for him. If you're Paddy right now, you are loving life. You are loving life.
If you watch the two fights, like, independently, not knowing which fight was the main event, you would have thought Paddy Pimblett, like the reaction that it got compared to the main event, the way the fans were watching the main event, you would have thought Paddy Pimblett was the main event, not Jan Blachowicz and Magomed Ankalaev.
Well, that was the co-main event. Let's move on to the featured bout. We saw a fun one at 180-pound catchweight. Santiago Ponzinibbio taking on Alex Morono. Again, my picks last night, I was feeling really good about a lot of them, and things are trending in the right direction, including my Alex Morono by decision pick. But luckily, those who watched the watch party, the chat bet came through. Ponzinibbio by KO. I felt bad for GC because he had the over 2.5, and the fight ended at 2:29 of round number 3. So he missed cashing that ticket by 1 second. So that was brutal to watch. And then the night just got worse and worse for GC as we continued on. But good bounce back, good comeback win for Santiago Ponzinibbio. My pick, AK, is the winner of next weekend's matchup between Jake Matthews and Matthew Semmelsberger.
Oh,
Whoever wins that fight, you go. I have to think Jake Matthews is going to win, and then we do Jake Matthews versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. But guess what? If Matthew Semmelsberger goes in there and pulls off a nice upset, chuck him in there with Santiago. I'm cool with that.
When the winner of Matthew versus Matthews. Okay, I'm into that. I went with. Well, I was trying to find a French welterweight for some sort of like World Cup Finals angle. I'm sorry, guys. Just so people know. Listen, I've been a hardcore football fan for about you know me. You've known me for a few years now. I've been a hardcore fan for 6 months, and I am I am all in on football now. Let me tell you something. I picked the right year to get into football. We got a weird late World Cup. We got, I don't know. I went to Scotland, so I'm in love with the Scottish team. I'm wearing Croatia gear. I don't know what's happening anymore. So now I'm looking at everything in football, you know, through a football lens. And Ponzinibbio is a huge football fan. He told our boy Bronstetter that, Mike, you remember we were doing, oh no, you weren't there, but we were doing the live weigh-ins, and we were like, wow, why is Ponzinibbio so late? And then we started speculating. He's probably watching the World Cup right now. And sure enough, he said, yeah, I was watching the Brazil Croatia game. So I was trying to find like an angle. Okay, what if France makes it to the final, and then they play Argentina? But I don't know if there's ever been a French welterweight in the UFC. I had my database. I kind of went through Benoit Saint-Denis, but that was one time. That was the Elizeu Zaleski fight. He's really a lightweight. He's not going back to welterweight ever again, I don't think. And of course, the immortal Orlando Vite, who we all know, who fought at UFC 2, of course. But that was back in the medieval days. I don't even know if he was a welterweight, and he's probably not fighting anymore. I don't know where Orlando is right now, but he's probably not fighting anymore. They also play Croatia in the semifinals. There are no Croatian welterweights in the UFC at the moment. So I had to abandon that whole angle. Thank you, everyone, for coming with me on that journey. And I landed on Kevin Holland. I think it'd be a good name for both guys. I have Ponzinibbio ranked slightly ahead of him. So rankings-wise, it's good for Kevin Holland. Name value-wise, I think Kevin's pretty clearly the more popular fighter at the moment. So both guys have a lot to gain. Cool stylistic matchup. I really want to see where Ponzinibbio is at this point in his career. He's coming off two tough splits and was not looking great in the Morano fight, and Morano was really taking it to him. He's 36 years old. I don't think it matters. I'm not saying like, oh, do we need to know if Santiago Ponzinibbio is a world title contender? That ship has probably sailed, but I want to know, is he still a ranked guy? Is he still a guy that should be getting top 15, top 10 opponents, for the next few years of his career? If he beats Kevin Holland, I'm ready to put him back in, not in the rankings, but against ranked opposition.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. I see one person throwing out Nasruddin Imavov, who, yes, would fit that mold, but he's a middleweight and he's already booked to headline the first card of 2023 against Kelvin Gastelum.
Who did that? Let's name names. Who did that?
Savas
Koob.
Someone said I was being negative, and I don't want to be that guy. I admit it.
You're a Paddy hater.
No, I'm the one who's saying that Paddy was a winner. Paddy was a big winner. Yeah. I don't think he won the fight, but all in all, this went as good as it possibly. This is the best case scenario for Paddy Pimblett. What happened last night, 1,000% in my opinion. So we move on to the middleweight division. Big win for Dricus Du Plessis against the returning Darren Till. Fight was crazy, man. It looked like DDP was on his way to like a 10-7 first round. Darren Till got a little momentum at the end. Till had a great second round, and then the third round, DDP just found a third gear and got Darren Till out of there. If you want to get Darren Till's reaction to the loss, you can go to MMAfighting.com and check that out right now. I posted a video on his Instagram. Pretty interesting comments. Says he's not retired, but he probably needs to take a break. But big win for DDP. Matchmaking success here. There were a lot of matchmaking decisions that I didn't love on this card, but this one I really did. And I think DDP, I think they can push this guy and do something big with him. So what would you like to do and see for Mr. Dricus Du Plessis?
Whenever this man is back from injury, I'm assuming it's nothing serious because I haven't heard any news on it being something that could take him out for a while. Derek Brunson, I'm throwing Dricus right into the fire. Give him a top 5 guy. He's top 5 in my rankings, my UFC rankings anyway. And I love Dricus. I think he's just such an exciting fighter. He goes from looking like, again, he's going to 10-8 someone to looking like he's exhausted, though, as he said, he's never actually exhausted. It's just kind of like his body language. So he's never worried about, going out there and having a hot first round. He's going to leave it all out there, and he's going to have something left in the third, usually, even if it looks like he's dead tired. And he certainly did against Darren Till. But Till certainly didn't look like a spring chicken either. So I don't know how this strategy is going to work against some of the actual elite fighters of the 185-pound division, which Darren Till is not, despite the matchmaking that he's had over the years where he's fought nothing but killers. I hate to say it, Darren Till is just not a middleweight killer himself. I don't think this is a news flash to anyone. I think this is a kind of a duh comment for anyone who's watched his fights. He's competitive. I mean, he looked good at times against DDP. He looked good at times against Robert Whittaker. I know he can hang with these guys, but there's a difference between hanging with people and beating them. And he said it himself in a statement today, like for whatever reason, he's just not been able to put it together in the cage. So I'm actually a hint. We'll talk about Darren Till a little bit more later. But yeah, for Du Plessis, I like Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson kind of has to go back to being in that gatekeeper role. It sucks to say it, but it's a good role for him because he keeps catching checks and picking up W's against up and comers. So maybe he could do it against Du Plessis too and keep himself in that title talk.
Look, AK, normally I'm not really a nervous guy, but there's a lot of people in the lobby, so I would cue the music right now. But if you want to sing, I'll lip sync behind you.
1, 2, 3. Friends forever.
Well done, AK.
That's good.
It is Derek Brunson. That's the one. I don't know what's going on with him. I know he was supposed to fight Jack Hermanson in Orlando. Insert Roman Dolidze, who got himself a big moment. I see a lot of people suggesting let's do DDP versus Roman Dolidze, and I'm down with that too. But I want to see Dolidze versus Marvin Vettori. I like that idea. And then let's give DDP and a big opportunity against a name as well. Let's move these divisions forward with these young, hungry whippersnappers and give them the opportunity to shine. Let's keep giving them names and let's move this division forward. Let's give Alex Pereira some interesting challengers if he's going to be a long-reigning middleweight champion. So we're on the same page there. But one of the names, and I think most people that I've spoken with who are giant fans of the sport and even just sort of casual fans who watch the watch party or actually tuned into the final card of the year, the one name that sticks out in everybody's mind besides Paddy Pimblett is Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria blew the doors off of the T-Mobile Arena, blew the doors off of Bryce Mitchell. We just never seen anybody do to Bryce Mitchell what Ilia Topuria did to Bryce Mitchell. This is an impressive performance. And the first combination that Ilia landed, like 10 seconds into the fight, you saw the expression on Bryce Mitchell's face. He was like, whoa, this is different. And Topuria just looked great. Takedown defense for the most part was on point. Bryce Mitchell did have a little bit of control, but was able to do nothing with it. But Ilia Topuria just gets Bryce Mitchell out of there. What an incredible performance. And this guy's on everybody's map now. The question is, AK, there are lots of fun options for Ilia Topuria. You're typically a pump the brakes kind of guy. Let's not go too crazy, but are we hitting the gas here or where are we at here?
I don't think we need to pump. I'm usually pump the brakes after if it's only been a couple of fights or if they haven't beaten a ranked guy. This is Topuria's. That was his 5-0 in the UFC now. 4 fights at featherweight. He just came off a lightweight win over Jai Herbert. 13-0 in his career. Clearly, I mean, just passes the eye test. Looks like a champion. Fights like a champion. Mixes the martial arts beautifully. As you said, dominated a legit ranked guy like Bryce Mitchell, and unless you're counting that loss on the Ultimate Fighter, which apparently the UFC does, was undefeated. And Jai Herbert made him look like he was not in his class. Like it was, Jai Herbert, Ilia Topuria, made Bryce Mitchell look like he wasn't in his class. It was just a spectacular performance. He looks like a future world title challenger, and I might be underselling him. Some people would probably say he looks like a friggin' future champion. So no, we don't need to slow roll. Loved his call out. Sometimes, Mike, we say we don't like people doing their jobs for us, but he said, give me T-City in Madrid City. Bring a UFC card to Spain. I love it. Please, Dana White, make this happen. Ilia Topuria versus Brian Ortega headlining UFC Madrid. It'd just be so sick.
I love that idea. We're not cueing the music, though. It's AAA, baby. It's AAA. It's Ilia Topuria versus Arnold Allen. #1 contender fight. I'm ready to... I'm going full throttle here. I'm going fast, driving 150 miles an hour. Let's go. Him and Arnold Allen, you put him on that March 18th card, #1 contender fight. There you go. Like, obviously, there's going to be an interim champion. And again, if Volkanovski wins the title in February, I don't think he's fighting at featherweight anymore, because why would he, when all the biggest possible fights he could have the rest of his career at 155? But that's the fight to make. I want to see it. I know a lot of people are suggesting let's do Arnold Allen versus Max Holloway. I do not like that idea right now, because we're trying to position Arnold Allen as a number one contender and throwing him in there with the guy that the current champion has beaten 3 times, including the most recent time, where it was a whitewashing for the most part. It was a perfect game from Volkanovski. Why knock off the top dude in waiting with Max Holloway? Like, it's way too risky. Now, if you want to do Topuria versus Max Holloway, I'm okay with that, as long as Arnold Allen is either next in line or gets another guy in a fight that's perceived a number one contender fight. But if Arnold Allen is not fighting for the belt or fighting in a number one contender fight, I don't want to see him in there. Like, these are like, Arnold has earned his opportunity to get to a title. That's why I don't like the Max Holloway fight. Now, if Arnold Allen fights Topuria or anybody else and loses and you want to do Max Holloway, totally cool with that. But right now, keep Max Holloway away from the dudes at the tippy top. Because if Max wins, then it's just like, okay, then we're having the same issue we've been having since Volkanovski won the belt. No one has been able to emerge because Max Holloway is beating them. So I don't love that idea. But Topuria versus Arnold Allen, I'm cool with. I'm going to pull this up. Double standards, Mike. Why not Allen, but Topuria's okay? Because Allen's the guy right now. Because Allen is the guy in waiting. We have an interim title fight, but if something happens, Arnold is the guy. He's the first phone call. So throwing him in there with Max Holloway right now makes no sense. Topuria is not, like, if you want, I'm ready to throw him in a number one contender fight. If UFC's not ready to do that, you can throw him in there with Max if you want. But Topuria's not the number one guy. He's like the number 2, maybe the number 3, depending on who you talk to. Arnold is the guy right now. That's how I feel. You can matchmake however you want. This is the people show. You can matchmake how you want. That's just how I see it. I'm keeping Holloway away from Arnold Allen. Just because Max, like, if Max wins that fight, it's brutal, man. It's brutal. It's just horrible, because then Volkanovski just has nobody to fight. It's wild. But I love Topuria versus Arnold Allen. That fight friggin' rules.
Yeah, as I was, when you first mentioned it, I was like, man, that's tough for Arnold Allen. But at the same time, he's not getting a title fight just by sitting around. I sincerely doubt it. I know Yair Rodriguez kind of did, but I think people in retrospect kind of gave him a little more credit for the Ortega injury win. There's a lot of people who said, listen, he kind of created the injury with the taking, going to the ground and grappling with them. Whether you agree with that or not, Yair has also had a little bit more of a push behind him from the UFC. It's been a consistent push for a long time, probably since he won the Ultimate Fighter, and they've loved Yair. Not to say they don't like Arnold Allen, but he hasn't. I don't think they quite view him that same way as marketability. If he beats someone like Topuria, it might change their mind, and vice versa. Topuria beats him, clearly a guy they have to get behind. So it sucks. It sucks that again, Arnold Allen might have to win 10 straight fights to get a title shot. That, by the way, would still not be guaranteed. But that's where he is. That's just where he is in such a tough and such a deep division. And same with Topuria. You could argue he's ready for like a number one contenders fight now, and I guess that fight would be it. But yeah, both guys have to win one more tough fight to get to a shot at UFC Gold. And again, when you're fighting at 145, that's just life, unfortunately.
Yeah, featherweight is just a crazy division. It's super loaded. It's not quite bantamweight. It's not quite lightweight, but it's probably like a tier below bantamweight right now, and that ain't a bad place to be. So that's the main card. Let's go to the wild card, AK. We'll select one fighter we have not matchmade for yet, and we'll make for them right now. So we can go with Darren Till or Jared Gordon, or we go for somebody from the prelims, whoever you want, AK. I'm curious where you're going with this.
I thought I was going to talk more about Darren Till, Mike. It's my wild card pick.
Oh, okay.
He is. Now, in a statement that came out today on social media, he said, not retiring. He needs some time off, which is, first of all, get your jokes in now that Darren Till has taken enough time off from the octagon. Ha, 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 ha. Very funny. Like him or not, it is unfortunate that he's had a lot of injuries. And we've kind of talked about on other shows, like maybe the matchmaking. I'm sorry, he's not complaining about it. If you're Darren Till, you love getting big fights. Darren Till is probably the last person in the world asking, oh, please give me easier competition. He doesn't want that. He thinks of himself as a top 5 guy at 170. He thinks of himself as a top 5 guy at 185. He's like, keep bringing on the top 10 guys, ranked opponents. It's really like his management or someone else that just step in and say, hey, can we get Till some easier opponents? But again, if you're Till, you like the prestige that comes with fighting big names. You're not going to complain about it. But I hope with his idea of taking a rest, there's also a reappraisal of who he should be fighting. Because one, I don't think he's going to rest that long. Again, this is a pre-holiday fight talk, I think, where it's like, I want to spend time with my family. It's the holidays, and I think he will, and I think it'll rejuvenate him, because I think he has to at least consider being on that March 18th card, the first UFC pay-per-view in London in 4 years. It's been a while. It's been a while since they've done a pay-per-view in London, maybe longer. He has to at least be considered being a part of that. He's such a big name, win streak or not, whatever his record is. People just love him. People just love him there. That's why you have these regional cards. Record is secondary. Streaks are secondary to just, does the person resonate with that fan base? And he resonates in a huge way in London. So you got to give him a fight. And Mike, I went like way down the rankings. Like I want to find someone who not only can he may beat in a spectacular way. Can we break the glass in case of emergency and pull out Jordan Wright, the Beverly Hills Ninja? Throw him in there with Darren Till. Because if Darren Till cannot knock out Jordan Wright, who again is a fighter I really like, and a guy like Jed and I always mention, you need guys like this who are going to go in there and just, the fight's not going to go to decision. Something spectacular is going to happen. They're probably going to end up getting knocked out. But listen, we need guys like that in MMA. We love guys like that in MMA. I think that's what Jordan Wright is. Give the Beverly Hills Ninja a free flight give him a flight to London, let him see the sights, and then let him get knocked out by Darren Till. And you can sort of keep Darren Till's he's gonna be 30 years old soon, but he's not even 30. He's got a lot of mileage on him, but he's not even 30. There's still a lot of fights you can get out of him. There's still money to be made off of Darren Till. I sound like a friggin' Dana White right now, treating a fighter like property, but I hope people understand what I'm saying. Like, Darren Till, I think, is not getting cut yet. And if we want that to remain the case, he needs to pick up a win against anyone. Jordan Wright, UFC 286 in London.
Interesting. I mean, it is the wild card round, and boy, you went heavy on the wild there. Okay, I like your idea. I wish we lived in a world where we could do that. Like, if Darren Till was in Bellator and this is going on, like, that's the exact fight they'd make. But it's not Bellator; it's the UFC. That fight would be insane. I just don't see it happening. I'm actually going a different route. I'm going with Rosas Jr. because I want to make sure we're all on the same page here. I want to make sure we're all doing this correctly, and I hope the UFC matchmakers hear me as well, because this kid is 18 years old. He looked real good against a tough guy in Jay Perrin. A lot of people are actually questioning the matchmaking there, feeling like Jay might be a little bit too tough, a little more battle-tested, someone that maybe Raul wasn't ready for. Maybe the moment would be too much for him, but Raul didn't care, loved every second of it, was very comfortable in the walk, very comfortable in the octagon. And I saw some like different suggestions for Rosas Jr., some guys that are like in the top 30 right now, and we're pumping the brakes here. Like, we're pumping the brakes. This should be a slow build, very slow. Like, we're smoking this thing for like years. Okay? There's no need to rush this kid. He's got to be fighting in the top 10 probably in 3 or 4 years. Let's not go crazy. Let's let this kid enjoy his senior year of high school. Bring him back International Fight Week to fight in the UFC on a big stage. And when he does, we're not going to go crazy here. We're just going to do a nice little step up, like on the huge ladder all the way up to the ceiling here. And it's a very high ceiling. We're just taking one step up. Kevin Natividad. That's where we're going. Raul Rosas Jr. versus Kevin Natividad. Because Kevin can create some chaos. Kevin's fun, and Kevin will be game. But stylistically, Raul Rosas Jr. matches up really well against him. But I don't want to see this kid fight again until like the summer. Like, let's let him enjoy being 18. Let's let him enjoy his senior year in high school. Let him walk across that stage with his friends. And then International Fight Week, get him on there. Feature prelim, Kevin Natividad, let him shine. That's how I would do it. Let's not go crazy.
I love it. Kevin Natividad, 0-3 in the UFC, 9-4, 3-fight losing streak. An exciting guy when he was with the LFA. So at least has that reputation. We know he's fought decent competition, even though he hasn't picked up a win in the UFC. But yes, those are the guys you want to put in Rosas' way right now. So I do like it. I've got someone saying Raul Rosas Jr. versus Brandon Davis. Brandon Davis is not with. I don't think he's with the UFC anymore. But
did he get cut?
I believe he got released. Excuse me.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Paddy the Baddy song.
No, I was clearing my throat. Yeah, no. I believe he is no longer with the UFC. And even whether he is or isn't, I mean, listen, just bring him back.
Bring him back. Yeah.
Yeah, you bring him back for a fight like this. So, yeah, I don't know. No, maybe I just made that up. I'm not seeing any formal. Either way, Brandon Davis are out there. Yeah, for sure. I like that. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to go. You're definitely looking at the bottom of it's bantamweight is super, super, super deep. UFC has a lot of bantamweight signed. You have a lot of options in the lowest tier of the rankings right now. So yeah, Brandon Davis, Kevin Natividad, these are good choices. I can't remember what my choice would have been. I put Ray. I keep saying Ray. I keep putting Raul pretty high. I actually put him. I debuted him like 51 in my personal UFC rankings, which sounds low, but that's 51 out of 70 something bantamweights. A lot of fighters more experienced than him. So that's how impressed I was by that performance. But you're right, Mike. Let this simmer. Let this simmer. Let's see if we really have a world title contender here, because it's a tough division. He just turned 18. He's a fresh 18. Remember, he was signed as a 17-year-old, just turned 18, and he looked great. And I think he'll continue to look great if they keep giving him guys like Natividad, like Jay Perrin, like Brendan Davis. Shout outs to at Dragon Slayer 2 on Twitter. Benito Lopez, I thought was another really good choice.
That's a good pick too.
Yeah, experienced guy, kind of recently came back, still not at 100%. But who is a really talented fighter. But yeah, there's again a lot of names near the bottom of the bantamweight rankings that are good for Raul Rosas Jr. But what a fight! I was not winning UFC fights at 18, Mike. I doubt you were either.
No, I was winning baseball games.
Okay.
Yeah, I was winning baseball games in front of at most 1,500 people. Wasn't fighting or playing baseball in front of 19,000 people.
That's just crazy.
Didn't happen.
And soaking it in. Like, he does not look. He came out with a great, great entrance with his honoring his Mexican heritage. I don't know what's going on with my voice right now. He was soaking it in, man. He was media day, completely comfortable. He's done a bunch of interviews. You've spoken to him. It's incredible. And again, I don't know if it is just the confidence of being a young man who doesn't know better, or the opposite. He's mature behind his ears, or somewhere in between, some mixture of that. But you can really kind of see why the UFC doesn't, they don't sign teenagers very often, even off the Contender Series. They're going to wait. They're going to wait 1 or 2 years, 2-3 years. We saw Cameron Simon, I guess he's at least 21, still pretty young, but a 17-year-old getting signed and then showing out like that. It's good stuff. I'll be doing some pump the brakes talk, I'm sure, some point in 2023 after he wins a couple more fights and everyone's saying, throw him in the top 15. I'm sure I'll tell people to chill. But for now, I mean, that's as good a debut as you can get given the circumstances.
100%. All right. So I think for the next 10 minutes or so, unless we have some extracurriculars you want to give away real quick.
Let's just give a full on no point to our boy, regular viewer Marcus McGahee. He predicted Damon Blackshear versus Farid Basharat, UFC 285, March 4th. Yeah, for regular listeners of Otno, he's always sending in Contender Series picks for guys. As soon as they win the Contender Series, he's sending in guys for this fight. And I'm always telling him, why are you sending these? We don't need them. But guess what? He just got himself a not no point. So he's already set for 2023. Marcus McGahee, he's redoing his whole budget for 2023. There's all kinds of things he can plan for now. He's got himself a not no point, which again, as always, they only go up. They only go up. They're the most valuable. It's not even a cryptocurrency. It's beyond cryptocurrency. They're the most valuable currency you can have right now. So Marcus, take your points there.
And that's how you get your points these days, because we have so many people sitting in suggestions now. You just got to you got to go off the radar. You got to go off the radar. All right, this is what we're going to do for the next 10 minutes or so. We're just going to pull up suggestions.
Let's go.
We could just be it could be one-word answers. We could have long, in-depth discussions. We could do whatever. And we'll start with Barry O'Reilly, who's, I think, an OG of Otno. He's been here since day one. Paddy Pimblett versus Claudio Puelles, AK. You like this idea?
Yeah, I like it a lot. Like I said, I think Claudio needs to do some image rehabilitation as well after a really rough performance against Dan Hooker. I'd rather have Dan Hooker fight Paddy, but sure. Again, we're just talking about getting Paddy on that London card against somebody. And Claudio is not well liked in the MMA community right now either because of the way he fought. I thought it was hilarious, but people were not so amused, especially people who paid tickets to see a fight. Did not like how he fought against Dan Hooker. So you put in there with Paddy, huge. I mean, it'll just be massive boos for Claudio. Huge cheers for Paddy. Yeah, very good choice.
I'm actually fine with that. It's realistic. Any interest in Darren Till Wonderboy 2, AK?
No,
I'm not either.
Moving on. Terrible fight. Terrible.
How about Darren Till versus Joaquin Buckley?
I think Buckley Buckley was doing okay against Chris Curtis, so I think Buckley. This is not far enough back for me. I'm like I said, I went way back in the rankings. I don't think Buckley's back far enough, but I could see them making it. I don't. It's not a terrible like choice from match like the matchmaker's perspective, but from like waving a magic wand, I do not want it.
I'm actually okay with this one. I'm okay with this one. I don't love it, but
it could happen. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't book it. If I had the book, I wouldn't do it.
There's Till versus Kevin Holland. What do you think about that, AK? Maybe Holland bumps back up to 85, wants to be that active dude again.
He would too, but I really would like to see Holland make an earnest go at 170. But listen, he's just there to make money. He's there to run through fights in his contract and keep getting the next contract bumped up. So if you're him, he'll take it. But he probably wants to fight sooner rather than later. So he'll probably fight twice by the time we see Darren Till again, unless I'm right that Darren Till changes his mind and fights in March.
Darren Till versus whoever did his tattoo.
Yeah, the cover up. It's bad. It's bad. I don't know what the hell it is. By the way, I see people mentioning Till's ACL. We don't know that he tore his ACL. That's what he said right after. He's like, I think I tore my ACL. And it's certainly possible given his injury history. I mean, worst case scenarios seem to happen to this guy pretty often. But I would just put like a grain of salt on anyone diagnosing their own injuries after a fight. You can't. There's really not a way to know. I've never torn my ACL, so maybe I'm wrong. Anyone who's torn your ACL, please let me know if you immediately knew that you suffered ligament damage. But I'm pretty sure you need to get examined. Hopefully, fingers crossed for Darren Till, it is not that, because if it is, I mean, that's at least like 9 months on the shelf probably. So that might suit his timeline. Like I said, he wants to take time off, but it is possible. And I think if he's healthy, like I said, should fight at UFC 286. But I do see a lot of people bring it up, and it is a factor that needs to be mentioned. I just wouldn't necessarily like say for sure that he has an ACL tear.
A lot of people bringing up Darren Till versus Edmund Shabazian, AK.
That's what I wanted if both guys lost. And I don't hate it. I don't hate it if I don't hate it even now. But again, like I said, if Till's going to fight in March, I say go for it, I guess. I do prefer it if they had both lost. And if Till's going to take a break, then you definitely don't do it. I think Edmund, yes, I like that he's kind of, still developing, probably wants to focus on training and not getting there as quickly as possible. But you don't want to wait that long for Till if it's as serious. So a lot of these matches have to do with whether we think that Till is actually going to be out for, like I said, possibly 9 months, maybe longer.
Rosas versus Brady Heistand, AK.
Yeah, I like it. I like Brady, but I think Rosas is right there skill wise. I'm seeing Buckley versus Bo Nix. I'm just gonna pin some messages here. Yeah, I don't mind it. You can throw a lot of names out there for Rosas that are near the bottom, so that's fine.
Raul versus Randy Costa. If Randy was still fighting, he's not fighting in the UFC right now. He got
that's
released.
What I was thinking. I think I was getting Brandon Davis mixed up with Randy Costa somehow.
Randy Costa got released.
I don't know why, but let me shout out a couple of people on the social medias real quick, just because they gave their first timers. Chase Kola, thank you. Welcome to the party, pal. Mike, what do you think of Ilia versus Giga?
I think Ilia jumped him big time.
They're not like buddies or anything, are they?
Not
as far as I know.
No, I think they are. They might be. I think they are.
Let me do a quick search here. And even if they're buddies, I'm not sure. Are they so buddy they wouldn't fight? They are. They support each other. They probably
fight for the belt. I'm sure that would be. Yeah. Topuria's far ahead. Giga's coming off of a loss, so
they're actually in my rankings. They're pretty close together. But as people know, I'm pretty slow to jump people up. So I don't know. I know some people might have thrown Ilia into the top 5 of their rankings after beating Bryce so definitively. I didn't do that. I'm pumping the brakes, Mike. It's a classic AK Leap brake pump.
Let's see what we got here. I'm trying to. We're throwing out just Wonder Boy versus RDA. Neither guy fought last night, but it's okay. Let's see. This is your chance. You got like 5 more minutes. Tristan Gordet. Simon versus Oliveira. Simon versus Simon, AK?
Simon on Simon. Tristan, I mean, listen, that's music to my ears, of course. Sign it up. Another one for Brady Houston. And hey, maybe Brady, if you're out there, get on social media. Maybe this is a fight that you think you can take and steal that thunder. And Quarantillo Philly, I love it. One of those fights that I feel like has it not at least been booked and fallen through. But yeah, it feels like they're in that right range, and you're gonna get an exciting fight there. How good is Billy Q, by the way?
He's just such a dog, man.
So fun to watch.
He's so tough.
He's so freaking good. I also want to shout out Crave, another first timer. Welcome to the party, pal. What do we got here? Looking forward to a robbery review. It will be coming Monday. Rematch on Ankalaev. Paddy versus Tony. Thank you. Dricus versus Strickland Cannonier loser. Ilia Topuria is an animal. Not book. Let's have what? Oh, is it versus Korean Zombie?
Zombies. So here's what I've kind of heard.
We saw social media post from Zombie, right?
Yeah, he's supposed to fight it on that. They're planning on doing a card in South Korea, so Zombie could headline, but it looks like Zombie has an injury, won't be fighting, and now there's reports. I haven't checked into this nearly enough because there's just been so much going on, but there's talks like maybe they'll move the entire event away because Zombie was a star and they would sell that place out if Korean Zombie was main eventing that card. But now that he's not fighting, they're not sure whether or not they're going to do it or not. So Zombie could be out for a while. I have no idea. So that's kind of tough. It's kind of tough to book him right now. But
he maybe has like 1 or 2 fights left in his UFC career. I don't know if he finds a second life in another promotion, but as far as his UFC career goes, probably 1 or 2 more fights. He's got to be picky. I think Topuria would destroy him at this stage of their careers. And I love Korean Zombie, but it's just this is not peak Korean Zombie anymore. We're far from it. Crave also says, keep up the good work, Mike, by the way.
Thank you. Rosenstrike Derek Lewis is the biggest no-brainer on this entire card.
Oh,
like you got to do that.
Yeah, another one of those. How have they not fought yet? How crazy is Rosenstrike's career? 7-4 in the UFC, all 7 wins by knockout. 29-second KO, 22-second KO. He's got a 9-second knockout of Alan Crowder. Rosenstrike, Jazz Union's fun, man.
Paddy versus the Drew Dober Bobby Green winner.
Either of those guys beats Paddy right now.
I agree.
And again, I think the odds. The funny thing is, I think the odds would be like, I actually think Paddy would end as a favorite, or would open as a favorite and end as a favorite, just because his name, he has so much name value. But like, and I again, never bet on MMA. I would be fading Paddy so badly in that fight. I would be either Dober or Green. I'd be putting all my money on them. I don't think either of those guys beat him. He can beat either of those guys right now.
I'm glad you mentioned this one, Wes. Chris Curtis, Edmund Shabazian, teammates now. So we're just throwing this out there. This is a learning thing because guys change camps all the time. We call this the Brendan Allen, Gerald Mearshart rule. Those two aren't fighting each other. Those two are thick as thieves. They're not fighting each other. And as of right now, Chris Curtis, Edmund Shabazian are not fighting each other. I am going to pull this one up, AK, because this one I liked.
Let me see.
This one I really liked. A young man, I don't know, by the name of Alex McAdam, a featherweight fight. Bryce Mitchell versus JSP. I like this idea a lot.
I think it's likely to happen. If I had a magic wand, I would make it happen. We got to see this in 2023. Alex McAdam, excellent choice. That's a great. I hope you get. I don't know if anyone else recommended it, but Alex McAdam, I will make a mental note that if that happens, you will get yourself a point.
Paddy versus Hinata Moicano. I don't like that fight for Paddy.
Moicano,
I don't like it.
Beats his ass. But again, listen, we've been saying this in a few Paddy fights. So Paddy, listen, keep proving us wrong. Though I don't know if he necessarily proved us wrong on Saturday. Though I did pick him to win. But you know what I'm saying. Us, the collective us.
Denny Kappas, Hernandez versus Sungwoo Choi, Billy Q versus Tukagov. Landwehr would be a hell of a scrap too. I know Billy Q mentioned Landwehr as a potential option. I like that. Evan Shabazi versus Andre Petrosky, or do you want to kind of keep this? I mean, I don't know. Like,
aren't we keeping Edmund away from grapplers?
Yeah,
isn't that Petrosky just eat him for dinner? Like, and again, maybe I'm.
How about Shabazian versus Jordan Wright?
Yes. This is what Jordan Wright is for. If there's a middleweight that you want to see in an exciting fight and probably finish someone, call Jordan Wright. And again, I'm not. It sounds like I'm slagging Jordan Wright so badly, but like I said, these are guys like this exist for a reason. And Jordan Wright is also a fight finisher. He is not like a walkover. There's a chance he turns the tables and gets a highlight reel himself. Either way, you're having a good time.
Denny, kind of a doo-doo pick because we already saw Curtis versus Brendan Allen, and
Denny.
Chris Curtis for a moment was the middleweight champion, which is now held by Brendan Allen, the coveted number 16 spot.
Let me shout out quickly my Casey Carpenter, a regular listener on email. Great job all this week. Looking forward to the robbery review. Thank you, Casey. They throw this out there. Hear me out. Some people want Paddy to fight a ranked guy. Paddy has his issue with Ariel. This guy is Team Ariel. Paddy's a company guy, and so is this guy. And the biggest reason, Jed hates both of these fighters. I think you're going to hate this pick, Mike. Paddy versus Michael Chandler. Oh, he's rubbing his chin. He's thinking.
I am thinking.
It's not going to happen.
No.
Yeah, but do you like it?
Honestly, I didn't even really consider that one. I just it was like a communal, anybody in the top 15 Mercs Patty. Man, that's actually kind of interesting. I would favor Michael Chandler to win.
Yeah,
but Chandler just Bellator Chandler destroys Paddy Pimblett. Bellator Chandler destroys Paddy. It's like a 30-24. That version of Michael Chandler. So just take him down and just beat the hell out of him. But UFC Michael Chandler is a whole different dude, and it will get chaotic. And there's a very real world that if Dustin Poirier is down there in the chaos submitting, and I love Dustin Poirier. I think Dustin Poirier has earned a special place in my heart after this year, after that performance. It made me believe that as highly as I value Dustin Poirier, I probably didn't value him enough, and I valued him very high in the MMA sphere. But Paddy Michael Chandler is actually kind of interesting. I would actually watch that fight. I think Chandler would win, but I would watch it. That might be the only. I would pick that one over Tony Ferguson, AK.
Oh, well, a lot of people would apparently. People seem to like the pick. But mostly because they're all saying Chandler would kill him, and they want to see that. So, hey, whatever gets you to turn on the channel, all right, or buy a ticket.
How about Paddy versus Michael Johnson, AK?
Yeah, great pick. I think we've mentioned that on a previous show. It's the right kind of matchup for him, though. I kind of would favor Michael Johnson.
Let's see, Adrian Yanez, Pedro Munoz. I see that, but neither of them fought last night. Ilia versus Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett's fighting for the interim titles. You can't do that.
Tristan just
Gordon versus Christian Christos Giagos versus Jared Gordon.
Sure. Tristan just throw out Paddy versus Gillespie. Listen, we don't match. I don't know. I think we banned Gillespie from matchmaking, right? Just because we just don't know if he's ever fighting again. And by the way, when you guys see the UFC rankings the UFC. Mike, I misspoke. When you guys see the MMA fighting global rankings this week, Gregor Gillespie's out. It has been over 18 months since he has fought. He's out of the ranking. He's holding on to a top 12 spot. He out of there.
What about these two matchups, AK? Ryan Hall for his comeback fight against Bryce Mitchell. Walt Harris versus Chris Daukaus.
Walt Harris for Chris Daukaus, great matchup, just if you're keeping Chris Daukaus around. I don't think he gets cut off of this. I think they like him. I do kind of want to see Chris take a shot at 205. He mentioned it. I don't think he's making a commitment to it, but and that's not going to solve all his problems. It's not like he drops to 205 and now he becomes a friggin' title contender. I don't know, but I do feel like he's just lacking a little something, power, a little size to compete. We saw that with Jairzinho. Jairzinho just ran through him. Like, that guy's a heavyweight. I don't know if Chris Daukaus is a true heavyweight, even though he had some nice wins there. And the other one was Bryce Mitchell versus Ryan Hall. RIP Bryce Mitchell.
And there's Jay. Daukaus versus Bacchus Christian at 205.
Yeah,
he's gonna take like a whole year off.
Yeah,
Gordon versus Jim Miller. Miller's booked, but maybe down the line.
Mm-hmm.
You have to think if you're Jared Gordon, like, you're gonna have to let this one simmer a little bit. I think this one's gonna be on his brain for a little while. Let's see. A lot of Chandler Pimblett talk. Paddy versus Hackpress. Hackpress is booked, I believe. He just got booked for one of the international cards. Oh, he's fighting Jamie Malarkey, right? Did I see that? I think I saw that.
What was that name? Sorry.
Jamie Malarkey versus Nazareth Hackparast. I think that's what they booked.
Okay, sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But what do they want? Malarkey for Paddy?
Card.
What do they want? Malarkey for Paddy?
No, they wanted Hackparast for Paddy.
Hackparast for Paddy. Yeah, somewhere down the line maybe. But that's not going to get Paddy out of bed.
What about Drakkar Klose?
Klose beats Paddy.
Yeah.
And not in a fun way.
Yeah, I don't think that one gets. Well, I don't know. Paddy's kind of I'll fight whoever, and that's kind of the way he should probably go right now.
Especially with the card being, we will say, with the card being in London, if he does get on that March pay-per-view, it really could be almost anybody, because the draw is Paddy. Does not matter who he's fighting. They just want him on the card. You want him in a co-main spot again and just get that reaction. A fight night, I think, like, when he fights in Vegas, I think you need to be a little more careful with the matchmaking. Like I said, I thought Jared Gordon was the perfect choice, even though it did almost end in him losing, or judging by people's opinions, that he did lose. But I still think on paper, Jared was a really, really smart matchup. But he's fighting back in London, maybe in Liverpool someday, match him up with whoever. It doesn't matter. He's Paddy.
I see someone say Brad Bell retired. He didn't retire, right? He just said he's taking a break.
He's taking a break. Yeah, you can perceive that how you want. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one other Paddy pick that I wanted to pull up. This one. Paddy versus Joe Lozon.
I'd love it if I think J-Lo should definitely pursue that fight. Again, especially if it's in London, take a little family trip. Again, that's the kind of stuff Joe Lozon should be doing with the last few fights of his career. You don't like him?
Joe ain't going to London.
Why?
No, because Joe ain't going to London.
It's a free trip.
Joe ain't going to London. He doesn't want to go to London.
Show the kids.
Joe Lozon has been very clear about what he wants. The name has to make sense, the date has to make sense, and the location has to make sense. Guess where the UFC's probably going to want to go sometime in 2023.
Oh, boy, your old stomping grounds.
Beantown.
Yeah.
Which,
we're in the
guess, you know where people are going to travel? Beantown. Will Paddy fans travel to Beantown? Yep, they sure will.
Of course.
So, I'm okay with that.
I just saw that too.
Guram?
No.
Damn.
Kutalatse washes Paddy.
No, Joe doesn't hate London. He just isn't going to leave his family to go fight Paddy Pimblett.
Bring the family with you. That's what I'm saying. It's a family vacation.
He might have, because Lozon might have one fight left. This is it. So he wants everything to be kind of perfect. Like Cowboy, that card made sense. Pay-per-view, doing it in Austin, all made sense. Then Lozon kind of hurts himself putting his socks on, which is really weird. I've been on the Joe Lozon Tony Ferguson train for a while. I'd love to see those two guys fight at this point in their careers, but okay, I think we're good.
If Joe
do you have anything else?
If Joe Lozon has ever fought outside of North America, I don't think he has. I think we got a couple of Canada appearances on there. Wow, yeah, maybe. See, Mike. Excuse me. UFC 144. Anthony Pettis, Saitama, Japan. So, and obviously I think he would make the trip to London. Joe Lozon, become Joe London for one fight. Give us Joe London for one fight. Come on.
I actually love this idea. Bring back Raging Al for Paddy.
Yeah, that's been a popular pick again for a while.
That's a great pick.
And again, if you are Ally Quinta, that's something that might get your interest and make you step back into the cage. But yeah, I like it.
All right. Well, I think we're good, gentlemen and
great
ladies.
Picks, people. Great picks. Great comments. Thank you. You guys are so amazing. I love doing the show. I love doing the pod, Mike, but I love doing the live show too because you get this live interaction and the viewers are so smart and just such great matchmakers. I love you guys.
Yes. So we're done here. We'll be back next week for the final matchmaking show of 2022. Following UFC Vegas 66, we got Jared Cannonier, Sean Strickland in the main event. This one should just be bumped to the main event automatically. Arman Sarukian versus Demir Ismagulov. We got Amir Albazi, Alessandro Costa, Alex Caceres, Julieta Rosa, scrap. Drew Dober, Bobby Green, scrap. Cody Brundage, Michelle Oleksiejczuk, scrap. Cheyenne Velismus back against Corey McKenna. Jake Matthews back against Matthew Summelsberger. Oh my God, it's a lot of fights to this card. Julian Marquez, Duran Win. The battle of the Saeed Nurmagomedov versus Saeed Yakub Hakhramonov. Mahashata versus Rafa Garcia. Brian Battle, Renat Fakhretdinov. I got that name so wrong. I can't get that. I have to work on that. David Dvorak, Midel Cap, and Sergey Morozov, Jordy Newson. That is the final UFC event of 2022.
I hope Kop Dvorak ends up being on the main card.
It's gonna get buried on the prelims.
That is silly.
It'll get buried in the prelims. But here's how the rest of it's going to go. By the way, okay, I'm going to break some news to you and to the people here. I will not be on next week's show. So you're going to have to man the ship.
Is that all the information you're giving us? You break our hearts and you just leave it at that?
No, it's the holidays. I'm traveling a ton. I got to go see family.
All right.
I'm going to be in Massachusetts, freezing my ass off.
So that's yes, Boston Mike. All right, Boston Mike's coming back.
Well, it's like Berkshire's bike.
Berkshire.
We're just going to Boston, like fly in and out of there. But then we're just going to drive all the way across the state. But then after that, we'll probably take a week off for the rest of the holiday, and then we are going to come back, AK, and we're going to do my favorite shows of anything we do on MMA fighting. The predictions extravaganza, the 2-part series. One, we will recap our 2022 predictions, which I actually listened to on the plane ride over and took all the notes. We did okay. So that'll be fun to just recap and remember some of these crazy questions that you crazies asked, which reminds me, the 2023 predictions extravaganza will probably go down the following week, maybe like the first week of January. So this is where we ask you, the ones that are submitting picks, we want you to submit questions to us. They're buy-sell questions. So, but I want you to think outside of the box, like have some fun with it. Like for example, one of the questions we had last year was the combination of Stipe Miocic and Robbie Lawler will have more UFC fights in 2022 than the Diaz brothers. Like, let's have some fun with these things. And then MMA the answers are buy or sell. Yeah,
MMA and we're supposed to be fun.
We'll take like the best 25 to 30.
Yes.
And then AK and I will try to pick UFC champions for the rest of the year. And then we'll have our bold caliente prediction. And we were both on the same page and we were both wrong.
I don't know what it is. I don't remember. But yeah, guys, hit us up anywhere. Hit us up. My DMs are open everywhere at Alexander K. Lee on Twitter, at Alexander K. Lee on Instagram. My email, alex.lee@sbnation.com. So please hit me up. Mike, your DMs on Instagram. You're just Mike Heck?
M_HeckJR.
M_HeckJR. Hit us through the reply. If not DMs, guys, hit us just on social media. Just hit us in the replies on Twitter. You can find me and Mike easily again through MMA Fighting. So yes, we want your whatever you got, guys. This is this time. Unload the clip and please give us your suggestions.
I've been doing this show even before MMA Fighting. We're doing something like this exact sort of layout. So there's like a group of like 10 to 12 sort of hardcore peeps who have been doing this for 6 years and submitting questions, and they've already been submitting them. They submit them throughout the year. So we got to play some catch up. So we're going to play like we're going to take like the top maybe 40. We're going to throw them into a little generator. We're just going to hit shuffle. And then we're just going to answer the 25 or 30 questions that come up that just like randomly generate. So can't wait for that show. It's my favorite of the year. But I will not be here next week. AK will man the fort. And then I'll be back in a couple weeks. Just taking a little time off. That's all. And it's all good. We're all good. And then we'll come back refreshed and ready to take on a very chaotic and crazy, yet very fun and positive 2023 for not just the UFC, hopefully, but the entire world of MMA. So for AK, I am Mike Heck. Always remember, don't take this stuff too seriously. MMA is supposed to be fun. AK will have fun next week. I'll have fun listening next week on to the next one, the podcast. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of the day.